You know, but it's going to have to be humanity that's going to rise up and take the stand. You're just going to have to turn off your televisions. They're going to have to get in their car. They're going to have to fire everybody in Washington, D.C. that knows and does nothing. And they're going to have to do something. You know, this apathy's got to end. Otherwise, the way we live is going to end. Period. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, and I'm not coming from a fear space. I'm really quite angry about the apathy and the fact that, you know, when people give lectures and try to tell us, people want to stand up and fight with them. Look at what's happening around us. The indications are everywhere. Everywhere. The truth is now an obscure thing. You know, the lie is the norm. There's something wrong here. What's wrong with this picture? Sorry, I'm getting crazy.
No, you're not. You're expressing frustration, I think.
Okay. They don't need anything. They have all this technology that they want. We can't really offer them except maybe work, do some work for them. But they don't need all of us to work for them. They don't respect human life in any way whatsoever. That's really our essence, our nature, I'm sorry. That's really our nature, our essence. And, you know, the cities and the culture that we're living in now has totally cut us off from the land, from what our real essence is, which is nature. And, you know, we're starting to feed off each other now. It's like so bizarre. It reminds me of that sentence that Abraham Lincoln, that quote that Abraham Lincoln once said. You know, if you are above the earth looking down, you could be an atheist. But when I'm on the earth looking up and seeing the heavens, I know there's a God. It's like the duality. And I think enough of us, more of us, really need to start taking the perspective that what we're doing here isn't right. You know, we need to get in touch with what's out there, with just the whole idea that, God, how did we get here? What makes me be here? You know, as opposed to going home after work, turning on TV, watching 3 hours of television, going to bed, getting up the next morning, going entrenched in our belief systems, that the reality of our belief systems is being chipped away daily, you know, to what we think is real. And an overlapping degree of thoughts and energy are being introduced that hopefully will open our perspective, enough people's perspective, to the point where we can experience a real leap in consciousness here. And we have to do this quickly. We have to do this by 2001 in order to really...
particular month?
Between July and August.
And what's happening?
That's the probability.
What's happening July, August 2001?
Well, basically nothing, but, you know, we're creating our future. Much of our future, that our belief systems, is being focused on the Book of Revelations, on other prophetic disasters that are to occur.
So you're talking about self-fulfilling prophecy?
Right. We're literally going to create it. We're literally going to create our own demise. Because we're buying into belief systems that say we ourselves are not mature enough or grown up enough to take care of our own selves. So we need somebody to come in here and take care of us. And that's an absolute recipe for disaster. Because, you know, who would want to come down here and save us from ourselves? Because then they're going to have to tell us what it is that we're going to have to do. We're not taking responsibility for ourselves. 210, 12 years, whatever it is now, we're right back at the same place where we're being called to do exactly the same thing.
But the paradox here, Alex, would be then that if we begin to war against ourselves, that's going to exactly fuel the whole fire that's going on.
Maybe for a brief time it would. Until one side surrendered or saw the light. Do you know much about the New World Order? Do you know that they're building concentration camps to put millions of people in? Do you know that the United Nations has got 300,000 troops in the United States right now that they're going to use to confiscate weapons? And they're sending our active military troops out of the United States so they won't be here when this happens? Are you aware that that's going on? Do you know that just off the coast of just south of the border in Veracruz, there are 300 tons of Soviet military equipment ready to invade? I mean, this is that there are states actually wanting to succeed from the Union. Yes, there are 9 different regions. The United States is being has already been designated to be split up. They're getting ready to totally dismantle the United States of America. And you know, the only real part of the United States of America, and I get so angry with this, is Washington, D.C. 68 square miles. That's really all that is the United States. We are in the Republic of Arizona. People in California are in the Republic of California. It is those separate republics that make up a United States. Washington, D.C. has totally manipulated everything. We're no longer the United States, what the forefathers founded. It isn't that at all. And you know, in 1992, the Congress approved the UN Charter. Well, what people aren't aware of, because it wasn't printed in the press, in the newspapers, in our controlled media, is that because it's a treaty, it supersedes the Constitution of the United States. The UN Charter is now the law of the land, not the Constitution anymore. And in the UN Treaty, Articles 55 and 56, look it up, folks, prove me wrong, state that the United States Congress no longer has to abide by the U.S. Constitution. As of 1992, the United States of America ceases to exist. They just haven't told the people yet. And they're not going to tell them until after they have outlawed all weapons, after they have totally regulated the Second Amendment and taken everybody's firearms away, so you can't fight, so you can't stand there and be free anymore. This is all part of the plan.
New York City by the year 2000 will not be there. It will be ash. It will be sacrificed. It's going to be sacrificed. The powers that be have already made that decision. Sacrificed. It'll be a sacrifice. An offering. An offering. Those souls that live there, their energy is going to be an offering.
Whoever it is going to try to capture those souls?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, they can.
It's because what's underneath.
Yes, sir.
Now, these social man-made
Natural phenomenon. That's correct. He asked the question, basically he made a statement, the East Coast is going to be a man-made phenomena and the West Coast is going to be a natural phenomena, and I agreed with him.
How does that agree with Casey's revelation?
I don't know, sir. I don't know.
He said it would be destroyed. I don't know that he said it would be bombed.
It was going to, yeah, an act of terrorism would turn it to ash.
By when?
By the year 2000.
When they do their terrorist events to blame on someone else, they are very ritualistic in nature in terms of when they're done, where they're done, and how they're done. So 9/11, I mean 9/11, what do you dial for an emergency in America? 9/11.
Yes.
You find this so often in these events that they engineer.
Did you know that the Madrid train bombs were exploded 911 days after September the 11th, 2001?
Doesn't surprise me, because the thing is that when I started researching this, my bloody jaw was dropping, not just at the ritualistic and symbolic nature of what they did, but the scale and detail of it.
Yes.
It's almost like someone's created a computer program to give you the perfect symbolic, ritualistic background to the latest horrific event.
Like something out of the Tower Inferno, like a movie.
Now, in your book, Alice in Wonderland and the World Trade Center disaster, you actually point out that those twin towers are symbolic architectural edifices, which I think you compared them to the twin pillars of Freemasonry, Jachin and Boaz. So you've got everything there. You've got like, would you say that it was like a mass ritual, a mass sacrifice?
Yes, that's what wars are, they're mass sacrifices. Yes. You know, this shock and awe in Iraq, for instance, was there to have a mass sacrifice. We don't target civilians is absolute nonsense. Of course they target civilians. They want as many dead people as possible. And of course Iraq, the former land of Sumer and Babylon, has enormous significance to these people because they go back to that period and that area of Babylon, etc. In fact, what we're seeing now is global Babylon when you look at the symbolism of Babylon.
Yes.
And for them to kill all those people there, it is a mass ritual sacrifice. And what I would say to people is, you know, if you are going to judge what this state of consciousness would do on the basis of what you would do, then you're going to lose the plot from the first, because you have a level of compassion, you have a level of empathy, that's the word, empathy, with people who suffer the consequences of your actions. That empathy is what balances out your behavior towards someone else, because you have empathy with the consequences for them. You remove that empathy, and this controlling consciousness has no empathy, not even with itself, never mind its victims and its targets, because they are as ruthless with each other as they are with the human race. You take away that empathy, and there are no fail-safe mechanisms to block extreme behavior. So, whoa, the people who run America wouldn't kill 3,000 of their own people. What? They'd have a party. You know, this is not about Americans doing it to Americans. This is about this consciousness working through physical forms that appear to be American, doing this to what are nothing more to them than humans' perception of cattle.